Okay, it looks like we're live. Again, we're gonna lock down a time here, but we'd rather have a quality presentation for you guys than to really just, start on time and not necessarily have a point. So last week we talked about the brand kit and the idea of putting together your toolkit for your brand. I mean, we're still building out the coursework for that and that you guys can access. This week, I want to talk about who's it for. And I think a lot of times we will build, and even marketers are guilty of this. We will have this amazing campaign that we dream up in our brain, and then we never stop to think, okay, but who's going to buy this?
Right.
And that is typically the most important conversation. And sometimes it's the most confounding conversation because it will force you to be honest in a way about your business that you may not be prepared for. So we're going to talk about the brand stuff, but this time we're going to talk about why it only works for the right customer. And we're going to break down a little bit on how to connect with your client avatar and merge the concept of having the right client avatar, the right brand toolkit, and using a little bit of AI to establish your workflow so your marketing's a little bit more consistent and targeted. Okay. So my name is Brian. I am with the Media Room and I sell words. I am the message. I really help business owners figure out who they're talking to and find the right platform to engage their clients that they want that are going to put money in their pocket.
And my name is Brian as well, Brian Gesser with 531 Labs. I run an agency that is a little outside the norm. My target demographic is $1 to $15 million companies that struggle with strategy and systems in their business and figuring out how to fix the leaks in their business and take it from chaos and duct tape and hope to something that's a well-oiled machine.
Okay. So, and we mentioned this week we are going to get into emails and stuff. We mentioned last week we were going to talk about emails. I think I want to put a pin in that one and come back to it because I don't want you to start whipping up a bunch of email marketing stuff without necessarily having a dialed in client avatar. And so we talked about logos, colors, templates, swipe files, brand voice, video assets, email assets, CTAs, which are call to action. That's a lot of the first step. And so Brian and I are kind of putting our brains together to figure out the right way to get you guys a step-by-step guide on assembling your brand toolkit. And so that's something that's working. But before you even start building it, we need to understand who we're talking to. It doesn't
Right.
work by itself. And so what is the benefit of having an established client avatar, Brian?
Well, look, I mean, just like you already kind of said, you can do all this work, you have all this product, do all this research on building a service or a product or a company and a logo and a brand and all fun stuff, right?
Mhm.
And you like all of it, but who's it for? Is it for you? Are you buying? Are you giving yourself money? You know, are you paying the bills to keep the light on? No, the customers and the clients are. So you have to know. It's funny because I feel like we're going a little backwards, and maybe should have started with this, but
Mhm.
it's like you can't really do any marketing unless you know who you're marketing to. You can't. Like otherwise, you're just pissing in the wind, and it's this general everybody shotgun method, and that doesn't work. You know, you might get some hits,
Mhm.
but it's not. You want to be able to, and I'm not talking about niching down or anything like that. I'm just talking about understanding psychologically the profile of who typically buys your product or service.
Right. It's kinda gotta be, because I think a lot of times people have this, if you build it, they will come kind of mentality specifically, where your right
Uh-huh.
clients will just find you through osmosis. Like they will just show up to your
Yeah.
stuff and you don't have to necessarily speak to them in any way, shape, or form. And oftentimes, unfortunately, business owners find out pretty quickly that that is not how it works. If you're posting stuff in front of a group of clients that are not engaged or not dialed in, you're just wasting a lot of effort. You're showing your stuff to the people that don't necessarily matter. And it can be harmless, it can be frustrating and harmless, or if you're running paid ads, it can be very detrimental to what you're trying to do. Because one of the things about running paid ads, and this is higher level stuff, but when you start running paid ads specifically through social media, if you're feeding ads through social media and your audience isn't dialed in, you're basically training the social media to bring in all the people that will not buy from you. And that can set you behind so far, to the point where I've actually said, okay, I need to start a different ad account because
Right.
I sent the wrong signal to this one and it's completely screwed up.
Yeah, and I'll throw a little trick in here, for ads. I typically will not run ads for anybody until we hit on a piece of content. What I mean by that is like I rather put focus on, researching who our client is, right?
Mhm.
Trying to attack it with the content that that audience will like. And then when we hit on a piece of content, you turn that piece of content into an ad because you already know it's gonna resonate.
Right.
So that's just a little trick. I'm throwing that in there, kind of a side quest there, but it comes down again to what Brian's saying. What Facebook does is it when you get a piece of content that hits, you know that that's resonating with the right people.
Mhm.
So then you can turn that into an ad, which can Facebook will know then already what audience to show that to, and you're not wasting money and you're getting the right people to look at that.
And this is I'll throw another aside in there because it's something that I do. When I run an ad, if I'm running a video specifically, I always run it organically with no money attached to it first to see how
Mhm.
it performs, and so it can get a signal from the audience, see who's so as Facebook can get a sense of who's engaging, who's sharing, and all the other stuff. I will not make a post into an ad or boost it or whatever you want to call the process that Facebook uses to extract money from your pocket. I will not do that until
Right.
I get a strong, strong, strong signal from Facebook that this ad is connecting on the level I need
Right.
to connect with. I think what happens a lot of times is people will post something, will just blast it out there, and they never give a chance to get the organic legs under it and let Facebook organically show it, and they put money behind it, and they end up hurting the reach of the ad. I want to build
Yeah.
a strong organic traffic signal, which means people engaging, sharing, doing it on their own, and then we make it into an ad.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you put a piece of content out there and you let it run for, piece a week or so, Facebook will even chime in and say, "Look, you have such and such traffic on your post.
Mm,
Do you want to turn this into an ad?" That's Facebook saying, "Hey, we've kind of dialed it in.
right.
Do you want to put an ad now?" I wouldn't always do that. I'm just saying, to Brian's point, it pays to let organic content sit for a little bit, let it fall where the chips will, and then go from there.
So let's go ahead. If you guys are popping in, say hey, leave a message in the chat to kind of let us know. If you got questions, any kind of marketing questions, don't hesitate. Drop them in the chat. We don't hold anything back on these live streams. So feel free to jump in there. Okay. So we talked about how you can have the cleanest templates in the world. You can have the nicest logo. You can have the right color. You can have all your files organized and laid out. But not knowing who you're talking to is kind of the death kiss for whatever you're trying to establish. Okay. I'm skipping number two. Because I think we talked about random acts of marketing. I
Right.
don't want to relitigate that. We talked about a brand toolkit can help you, so we're going to skip to this. So last week was about the assets. Now we're going to talk about the audience. All right. And so how, Brian, okay, so let's say you have an established business, but you don't have a client avatar. You just have clients coming in and you've never had to put any thought behind it. What would be your first step to kind of figure out who that client avatar is?
Well, I first and foremost, if you got traffic coming in, and let's say you're a brick and mortar, you just need to pay attention. Pay attention to the demographics coming in. Pay attention through. Let me put it this way: you need to start capturing somehow, so you can assess.
Mm,
You can visually assess. You can look at people. You can talk to people. That's like the first and foremost. As an owner, you should be kind of just being aware,
right.
right? So you could create content for those types of people, but you have to capture somehow. So a lot of POS systems, I'd capture that, and then you kind of understand through other systems, you can figure out what that audience looks like. And what I mean by that is say, I'll just throw the system out there real quick. So say you have a POS system, you're capturing email addresses and you decide to put out a piece of content. You push that content out, right?
Right.
And say it goes to your website. Let me throw this out there as a side quest too. All your websites, if any of you have websites, you need to have Facebook, YouTube, Google Analytics. You need to have those pixels put on there. If you don't know what that means, ask ChatGPT, ask AI. Those pixels will grab the demographics from those people
Hmm.
and you can build audiences off that. Okay. I'm getting a little advanced with this. I don't want to get too far into the weeds.
Hmm.
But if you don't know your audience, you need to capture the data somehow, whether it's visually and just through like you be paying attention, or it's digitally through POS systems or email lists or mobile lists or whatever, right?
Right.
That'd be the advice I'd give to any business owner out there. get the data somehow.
I would say this too. I mean, and for a little bit of clarity, for the bit of clarity on this, a POS system is a point of sale system, and so that's where you swipe a credit card in like a brick and mortar. Like it's kind of your the hub where you're taking all the payments and it's kind of servicing your clients there. And so if you aren't that level of engaged, or you don't know that you're still learning the tech, because a lot of people that have a POS system, they don't really maximize what that information collects. I want you to
Yeah.
sit down and look at your client base and think about that one client that speaks to you, the one that is always a joy to work with, and then just start writing out what you know about them. How many kids do they have? When did they was the first time you remember them coming in? What do they normally talk about when they come in? What do they normally buy?
How many times do they come in?
How
How
many
much do they
times?
spend?
Yeah, if they have they recommended people? Like, I want you to start kind of compiling an informal list of what you know about that client, because if you can remember them, they stand out to you, that may be your ideal client. And then you could start tying it to the other data stuff once you get your pixel set up and everything. And realistically, if you guys need help, that's what we're here for with that kind of stuff. To
Yeah.
talk about the technical stuff. You know, that puts it in my brain that we probably need to do some kind of stuff about Google Analytics and Facebook Pixels and what they are and how to do all that other stuff with
Mhm.
them. But that's where we can go with it. It doesn't have to be too high level, and this stuff is not that complicated, guys.
No, it's not.
It's
It
simple.
sounds more complicated, but
Yeah,
these are small additions to things you already have, right?
right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great idea. You find the person you like that comes in a lot that make let's start with your regulars.
Right.
Let's just make it that simple. Your regulars are your ideal client, and then make a fake what a customer avatar usually is a fake profile you write up.
Mhm.
What you think that person's age is, what you think their annual salary is and stuff. You make these fake profiles up that help you kind of guide who you want to be reaching out to
Mhm.
as far as like marketing and awareness and brand recognition and all that stuff.
So let me just skip ahead because I've skipped around here, but we did talk about a lot of this stuff. The biggest thing is once you're clear on your ideal client, you're going to know exactly what conversation to have with them. It's like if you got two kids, right? And your kids have different personalities, you're going to tailor sometimes the way that you engage with them, the way you talk to them based on who
Mhm.
you're talking to. And so, because that makes your message more effective. If you got a 3-year-old and a 15-year-old, you're not going to communicate to the 3-year-old the same way that you're gonna communicate to that 15-year-old. You're gonna
Right.
explain in a way the 3-year-old will understand, and that's the importance of having the client avatar, because sometimes you have a client for one specific product, they may not be in for this other product over here. They may not be a client ever for it. If you keep
Right.
trying to sell them the thing that they're not interested in, they're going to start ignoring you, and that's what happens when your message is off.
Well, the number one rule of sales is don't try to sell the unsellable.
Right, you know?
Don't waste your time.
So, you don't wanna be trying to sell bottled water to the Wicked Witch of the West, right? Like,
Right.
that's not the place you wanna go, or a shower head to her. You don't wanna shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
For real.
so you wanna know who you're talking to and what that person wants and what the problem that person is trying to solve. Sometimes you need to know what they're afraid of, specifically if you are in some kind of security business or protection business or medical or whatever, you need to know what they're afraid of and what that person's already you wanna know what that person's already tried, right? You need to know these different dials. So let me jump ahead. That will help you determine what your asset should bring to the table, okay?
Yeah.
Now,
So where are you at? I'm kind of jumping around too, but
I think I'm on point number 5, why most client avatar work feels useless.
right. So a lot of people hear client avatar and they think about sometimes like what I was saying, a fake worksheet that you come up with. It's like, uh, our ideal customer is 37. She drives a Honda. She likes iced coffee. She goes to Target. She has two kids. Some of that matters, but most of the time, it's not the main thing that you need to be focusing on. What you care more about is the buying behavior. So you need to understand what problem are they trying to solve. What do they want instead? What are they tired of? What would make them give you money? What take action?
Mhm.
What makes them hesitate? What causes friction for them? Um, and then what words do they use when talking about said problem? So you got to take this stuff we say with kind of like you got to expand your mind a little bit because when we
Right.
say problem, It could be, say you sell ice cream, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's not a problem per se, but the problem would be you're solving the problem of someone that wants ice cream and doesn't have it,
Right.
right? So you got to expand your mind a little bit when we say solving problems for certain customer types,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So you need to figure out these things, like what problem are you trying to solve and what do they want. But I do, even though it may seem kind of stupid, I do believe in some of the, like, the fake worksheet type stuff where you got to figure out what they drive, how
Mhm.
much money they have, pay attention to those things as well because it does matter. And then if you can give that kind of information to like an AI like ChatGPT with the right prompting, you can really bust out the right types of content pillars you should be focusing on and pushing out in marketing.
Right. Having that information, like, just you never know when knowing, like, will they drive this kind of car? You never know when that information can be beneficial, but sometimes it is. And
Hmm.
so, as long as you can create as many client profiles as you need that explain who is coming in and giving you business, having that locked in and dialed in, because also it kind of steers you away from people that you don't necessarily that won't be your better clients. And when you start steering away people that aren't your better clients, you end up reducing those negative reviews and those negative interactions and things along those lines because you're not drawing in people that have the wrong expectations of your business. So let's go into the framework here. And so we'll give you a simple framework to kind of use. Okay. And so this is just the practical client avatar framework. I've used this before, a variation of this. And so we had to kind of simplify it. Okay. So with the framework, number one is the situation. What is going on when they start looking for help?
So I'm going to use an example. So let's say what is going on when they start looking for help and they are someone who is hungry and is looking for, um, pizza, right? What's going on? First thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Google. They're going to look up pizza joints near me. So what does that mean for you? It means your Google profile better be on point.
You
So
you need to
I'll
be in
just
that
keep going.
search. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to keep going as you fire the questions. You can kind of talk about the situation, then I'll rapid fire with you.
Okay. So if we talk about pain points again, family being hungry is a pain point. Not feeling like cooking is a pain point. We don't have to think about this thing as this unsurvivable thing. Sometimes it's just a thing that needs to get solved. Okay. So when we
That's
say
right.
number two is pain, what is frustrating them?
Yeah. So let's stick with the same thing. Like you said, the frustrating thing is they're tired of cooking.
Mhm.
They've cooked the last 4 days because cooking doesn't mean just cooking. I'm speaking real truth here. You cook, then you have to clean,
Yep.
right? And then you have to put the dishes away after you clean them. And it's not just cooking. So you cook 4 days straight. You're tired of it. You want to just go grab something, and that's what's frustrating me. I'm
Yep.
tired of cooking this week,
Or
right?
or you get that one pizza place that only half the family likes. That's a
Yeah.
pain point. So you're trying to find one that everybody likes.
Yeah. I don't like that pizza. That
Yeah.
crust is gross.
And it's like, I love it. I mean, me and my wife have that one all the time. Like, there's a pizza place that I love and she does not care for at all. All right.
Right.
So three is desire. What do they actually want?
Okay. So we talked about how they're hungry. They want pizza. They don't want to cook.
Mm.
What do they actually want? They want freedom from having to worry about cooking dinner. I know it sounds like the same thing and we're reiterating things, but these are different things going on in their brain, right? So they want it to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
They want somebody that they know, from maybe they go to a place they always go to and they're not worried about it being bad. It's good every time they go. So they just want the ease of it. So that's what they actually want. They want it to be easy.
I'm reminded of the entire somebody goes to the hardware store to buy a drill. They're not buying a drill. They're buying a hole in the wall. But they're not buying a hole in the wall. They're buying a way to hang up a picture. But they're not just buying a way to hang up a picture. They're buying a way to make their home feel a lot more comfortable so they can decorate and design it the way they want to. So at the end of the day, they're buying comfort in their house.
100%.
So that's kind of how you got to pursue it. I know it sounds complicated, but you do have to get into the mind of your customer.
Yes.
Objection is number 4. What makes them hesitate?
Well, I'm going to be honest, this day and age, I see it more often than anything else. It's going to be price. That's just the reality of life right
Mhm,
now. Everything's expensive. That's why people aren't going out as much for eating, sticking with this same example. So they don't have the budget, maybe it's a place that doesn't deliver
mhm,
and they don't want to drive to it. So they're like, maybe not. Maybe I'll just cook. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to spend the gas,
mhm.
you know. that kind of stuff. So that would make them hesitate.
Uh, I know one piece of friction that I've encountered at places that I like is friction with ordering. It's a pain in the butt to order from this place. You know, either you got to call and talk to somebody and they may halfway understand what you're talking about, or the online system sucks and
Mhm.
it's hard to navigate and buggy. And so those can be other points of friction that you introduce subconsciously into your business where the customer experience with getting your stuff can create the next objection. All right, number 5, buying trigger. What makes them finally pull the trigger, take the action?
Two things come to mind. The ordering is simple. Um, they know that if they're a regular, they know that on this day they can get this price and there's a special or something like that. So
Mhm,
what makes them take action is ease of ordering, getting rid of all friction
mhm,
to make the process easy. Things come to mind like Starbucks might have one of the and I don't go there much often anymore
mhm,
because their prices got out of control, but there's my hesitation. That's why I stopped going there. But their ease of ordering on their mobile platform is one of the best. People should take notes on that because it's one of the best out there.
mhm.
They put front and center your top 5 drinks that you order. So you can open the app, click that, hit order, it runs through your card, done. And when I roll up there, it's ready to go. I'm not waiting around like everybody else, you know. I pull in a parking spot or go through the drive-through if it's not busy and my stuff's ready.
Right. And that
So making things easy
yeah.
and frictionless is your goal for what makes people take action.
And, do go back to this, like, if you're meeting the expectation, like, if I go to Little Caesars, I know I have expectation for Little Caesars. If it's
Right.
below expectations for Little Caesars, then expectations have completely fallen off of a cliff, and, so if the last time I got the thing and and it met the expectation that I would have of this place, that's something that makes that pulling the trigger the next time a little bit easier. So, if I got Little Caesars and it was absolutely worse than any other Little Caesar experience I've ever had, even though I'm conditioning myself to have a bad experience with it. This is how it goes. If it meets expectation, then when I'm in that mode where I just want to shut my brain off and grab something, it makes that decision a little bit easier. So it's thinking how this is going to look on this end and making sure that it aligns with the expectations that they currently have. Let's see how the avatar shapes the brand toolkit. And so I think that's what we're going to get into. I hope you guys understood that. And I'll run through the framework here real quick. 1 is the situation, 2 is the pain points, 3 is desire, 4 is what objections do they have, 5 is the trigger, what makes them actually take action. And so that's how it works. Hold on 1 second. I gotta readmit Brian here.
All
Internet,
right, had a power surge.
I know how that goes. Hey, yeah, guys, like I said, this is live television. Scott, pizza,
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah. I
You
was
know?
gonna add there, I don't know where you ended up because I know it wasn't gone there long there, but you can always count it's not listen, McDonald's does not have the greatest food, but McDonald's is always the same and consistent and
Mhm.
easy and there, and you know what it's gonna taste like.
Right. And a good McDonald's experience is forgettable, but a bad McDonald's experience is something that you will never forget.
That's right.
It will stick with you forever, you know? And that is a truism. And so as long as it meets the expectation, people can automatically not think about it. And that's just how it goes. So we're gonna talk about how the avatar shapes your branding toolkit. Okay, your branding toolkit should be built around the customer you want more of. Okay, and so Brian, we're on number 7 here on the show notes
Okay.
here. And so number 1, we're gonna talk about logo and visual style. I'll do the ask part of it, and then you can kind of explain. I'll do the first
Yeah.
part. So logo and visual style. Will this make the right customer trust us faster with your logo and visual style? And so the example is going to be, and I'll do the first one. You can take the second one. So the example is going to
Okay.
be like a kid's party business should not look like a law firm. And
No.
it sounds reductive to say, but I think sometimes we get too obsessed with professional that we're not necessarily dialing into who our market is. Okay. So a kid's party business should not look like a law firm. A luxury real estate business should not look like a discount flyer. Okay.
And a bakery should not look like a software company, right? I go to a bakery, I got family on the East Coast and I love bakeries and delis and stuff out there. When you walk into a legit bakery, it needs to feel like I need to see the guy behind the counter covered in flour,
Mhm.
not in not in a suit or, not buttoned up. And you know what I mean? Like it should feel like it's been worked in. So the visual style, what we're getting at here is the visual style should match the buying decision. I want to buy from somebody I know, like, and trust, right? That's
Right.
that's basic marketing, but you want it to match. I hate this word, but there's no better word when the buying decision has to match the vibe.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
hate that word, but it is what it is. It has to feel right. And that's a psychological thing. Marketing is psychology.
Right.
It really is.
It is.
So is brand. So is the visual style. So is how you talk. So is how you greet customers. So is the buying experience when they walk into the joint. That's just the reality. You have to psychologically connect with these people, mind meld with them if you're a Star Trek fan out there.
Right. And know thy customer and know yourself. That's kind of how it works. You do that, and that's going to instantly improve. The moment you start getting into the psychology of your customer, it's going to start improving your outcomes. Just spend a little bit of time thinking about who's doing it.
Yeah. So jump into it. Like you got brand colors, right? So ask yourself, what should a customer feel with the color? Because again, we're getting into details here, and that's kind of what Brian and I want to do is really dig deep and not hold back with any
Right.
of this. So colors mean things. Colors, warmth, trust, energy, calm, premium, fun, urgent. They're not just decoration; they actually create a first impressions. I don't have maybe Brian's pulling it up.
I'm
You can
pulling
pull
it
up
up.
like the
I'm pulling it
what
up
they
right
mean,
now.
yeah. So, for example.
Yep. I'm pulling it up right now here. If I can get
Okay,
this to pop up in the big screen here.
you're good.
This is kind of smallish. The one I pulled up is kind of smaller, so I'm kind of looking for a bigger one.
I should remember
Oh,
this, but
this
I
works.
don't.
This size
Okay.
works. So I'll be sharing my screen here momentarily. All right. And there's 1,000 different ways to interpret this, right? Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. So there's been 1,000 different ways. Each color wheel is going to tell you something a little bit different, but they're all kind of consistent in terms of things. Okay. There's a reason why IBM trademarked IBM Blue. Like you can't use IBM Blue for your logo without expecting a cease and desist letter from IBM because they've established that. So when you're looking at brand colors for your business, so red means passionate, active, exciting, it's bold, it's youthful, energy. Okay. And so when you look at the brands that use it, you see your Kellogg's, Lego, that's one of their known things, Coca Cola,
Nintendo,
Nintendo.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Pink, love, calm, respect, warmth. Feminine, long term, intuitive care. Okay. So you're going to see Barbie, Cosmopolitan, Victoria's Secret, things along those lines. Purple is an interesting one because you don't see a whole lot of businesses run with the purple, but it can be a statement color.
Yeah.
And it kind of leans into creativity, original.
Yeah, I can see in there wealth and stuff like that. It does and distinguished. It does purple does have that royal aspect to it, right?
Right.
So, it can mean premium as well.
Yep. And so, but Cadbury, Cadbury eggs, Yahoo. I don't know what Yahoo does anymore. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, do we really know
People
what
still got they still got emails. People still got Yahoo emails.
navy? This is a color that you see a lot. A lot of brands use navy because navy is a trust color. You know, it's a stable
Not my
color.
favorite color.
Yeah.
Not my favorite logo color.
But we got trust, sincerity, authority, control. And since it's a common color, a lot of businesses will default towards navy
It's very
because
corporate to me.
yep,
In my experience doing branding, for 20 years plus, it's very corporate grays and blues and stuff like that. That cooler realm of colors.
mhm,
It screams corporate and serious, for lack of a better word.
sports. Okay, uh, elaborate a little bit, Scott, on that one. Um,
I think
because
he means there's a lot of sports that I mean, I can see that there with Reebok and
yeah, okay, I got you.
stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. So I could see that.
Green. Here's the thing. Green means green. And so a lot of times, and this is what I'm not necessarily seeing on here, because they say balanced growth, restoration. Green actually, like green is for a lot of businesses that are in environmental spaces or things along those lines. Green is the signal that you are eco-conscious business.
Yeah.
And you will find that green in there wrapped in with some kind of blue or something. Um, it's interesting you see oil companies in there. Anyway,
Well, that's purposeful
yeah,
because they wanna seem green
yeah,
and clean for the environment.
eco-friendly.
Yeah.
So, but clarity, prosperity, because green is the color of money, and we can reduce it to that. I mean, that's real.
Uh-huh.
Blue, the blue, the IBM blue, like again, is trademarked. People like you can get sued if you try to use IBM blue.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they lean into it. Um, this is growth, control, determination, self-sufficient. This level of blue is modern. I wish they would have actually named this something besides blue, but
Right.
to get a little bit more introspective. Orange. I've seen lots of different things about orange.
Yes.
I've seen orange can lead to can mean excitement. I would see people say orange is more in lines with what they have as purple for creativity.
Mhm.
But then also I've seen it get like a warning, like a protection
Yes.
thing where it's a safety thing. And so, but orange, freedom, impulse, motivation, and stuff like that. When people pick out these brands, they spend a lot of time for the big, huge brands, they spend a lot of time thinking about their logo colors.
Oh, yeah. A typical just to give you guys a little backstory, like, with some of the branding I've done, a typical, timeline for, for companies that are maybe in that, 50 million plus, range of
Mhm.
revenue per year, you could expect to spend about on the short front, 3 months, but on the long term,
Oh yeah.
12 months.
Yeah.
That's how long it takes, and because it's not just the colors, it's like it's the logos themselves and the shapes, and then how do we roll it out? There's a whole campaign behind. There's always a big campaign, marketing campaign behind a new brand layout or brand launch.
And the font, they don't even worry about the font. How does this font
Yeah.
how does the typeset communicate? Sometimes corporations will literally pay a designer to design a new font for them to use.
Oh, 100%. I've designed so many custom fonts because of that, because they're like, "Well, I like this one, but can you change just the E's? The E's gotta look different. I don't like the way the E's look," so
Yep,
you're building a custom font for them. And it seems kinda silly. At that level, at that corporate level, it matters 1,000%.
it does.
But on the mom and pop entrepreneur under 10 million, I would argue, I mean, some would argue against me,
Mhm.
but I would argue that it matters less, and I would focus on being able to switch up your logo and being able to pivot when it doesn't work for you or whatever.
Yep.
So,
And
just throwing that out there.
and you can spend a little bit of time. Don't sit there and belabor, "I need to pay somebody to come in and overhaul my entire logo." I think a lot of times people spend way too much time focused on that, like Brian said, but it is something worth noting too.
100%.
And noting that sometimes the colors that you pick for your logo are not necessarily in agreements with the message that you want to send to your audience. Okay?
Uh, let's, we're getting close here, so
Yeah.
let's rapid fire here. So, what ask yourself, what kind of post does your customer need before they take action,
Yep.
right?
That's for social
Is
media.
it for social media? Do you need is it like problem posts where you're stating a problem they might have and giving a solution? Is it an offer post where you have to come up with some sort of creative offer for this type of customer? Before and after posts, Scott, I know you're in the audience there. Those work well, obviously, for him. He
Yes.
does carpet cleaning, and they're massive. It's cool to see. Scott actually doesn't do before or after. He does. It's kind of a during. So he's like cleaning them,
Yep.
and you can see the clean lines, but he keeps a solid line where the rest of the carpet's still dirty, and it's visually appealing to someone to see that and say, "Shit, that's how dirty my carpets
Yeah.
really are." So that type of post for people to see, and then customer story posts. I'm not big on the whole customer story stuff, but it works for some formats.
And
Yeah.
before and after can bleed into the customer story because people can talk about their previous state was and how,
Mhm.
how your surface has changed it. And I'll spend a second on this. Before and after posts are so powerful that if you're trying to do a before and after post on Facebook, they will make sure that it's not about weight loss. Otherwise, they
Yeah.
will not post it. So
Sure.
it's a very powerful mechanism, but it should match the
Uh,
kind of content that your customer needs. Okay. And we'll power through these last points. Brand voice. How does your customer need to be talked to? Like in the sports world, with the sports training business, we are talking about being better, getting better than your competitor, outperforming the people through performing people standing next to you through hard work and stuff. And so the language we're going to have is very motivational, but very, hey, let's go out and compete on a high level. And that's a lot
Yeah.
of what the language you do. We don't coddle a lot of people with stuff.
Yeah. I struggle with this sometimes because um, a lot of experts in how do you sell marketing to companies would talk about proof and reassurance.
Hmm.
I come at it from a different angle. I think business owners, this is just my opinion. It's worked for me in the past. It's working for me now. I think directness is more effective.
Yep.
It may not, you catch more flies with honey, but I like being direct and real with people and not trying to sell them something that they don't need. I can tell you all day long that I can build you a website, but if you don't know your customer or, you don't do any of your sales through your website, what the hell's the point? Let's fix let's fix what's broken first. And then all the pretties and stuff is just cherries on top.
Yeah. That's how it works.
So your brand voice should sound like a real conversation
Mm.
with the customer you want more of.
And it because if it doesn't, it can be a disconnect. Okay. Calls to action. What's the next step there? What is the next step they're ready for? Not everybody's ready to buy today. And I think a lot of times on social media specifically, we make that mistake of we have the buy now button and that customer
Uh-huh.
may be ready to buy in a week or a month. But we
Yeah,
keep
we are not all Amazon.
yeah, we keep putting that buy now in front of them and then they end up forgetting about us by the time they're ready to buy now.
Mhm.
So some people need a little bit of warming up. They may need to watch a replay. They may need to have that exploratory call, right? And
Right.
so understand that your CTA, your call to action, the thing that you're telling them to do should match where that customer is.
So, for example, let's put this into a real life example here. So, let's say I don't know, you had some sort of flood damage, water damage in your house, right?
Mhm.
You are stressing out and you're like, okay, I've cleaned up a little bit, but I need to get this fixed, right? If you're like a restoration company, like a cleanup and you come in, or a construction company or something like that, and you have a piece of content out there that's like, did you just have a flood? You need somebody to come out right now, ASAP? Click this button.
Right.
That CTA ties to the need
Mhm.
of that customer, right? So that's what we're talking about. It's matching the need that they have to the next step, right?
Right. So I think what we'll do with number eight's going to be number eight's going to be its own show. Let's just make number eight
Yeah,
how
yeah,
we use AI to figure out your client avatar and how we use AI to build your toolkit. That's going to be its
yeah,
own show, its own individual training. And so we'll just put a pin in this one. And that will be where we pick up with next week. And we'll walk you through the process step by step of building
yeah.
that
And
toolkit.
I'll give you a little precursor of what it's going to entail. So what we'll talk about is, who do we serve? What do they need? What do they want? What do we want to offer them? What should they do next?
Mhm.
So that's what AI will help us do and help you move faster towards those answers. And we're not trying to do like, hey, open chat GPT and say, write me a Facebook post, right? So that's what we'll kind of get into next week. I think it's a perfect topic to follow up on,
Yep.
and we'll do live prompting. Live prompting's scary sometimes, but um, I feel like we can get it done.
Here's the thing. What we're going to do is we're going to show you exactly how we talk to our AIs. And so you guys get a sense of how granular we get with our stuff. And you'll get you'll get a little bit of glimpse behind the curtain. So that's what we got for next week, guys. If you have questions, drop them in the comments, go ahead and inbox us or whatever. We really do appreciate your time. There's something I want to ask you real quick, Brian, when we get off here. So we'll be back at you next week. We are going to be on at 1 or
Yes.
12:30. We're gonna move heaven and hell to get there.
So just a little inside football here. We've asked people and we get several times. So we're trying different times.
Yeah,
Um, and we'll nail something down once we're gathering data for our customer avatar is
yeah.
what we're doing.
So that's what we got going. Thanks.
Hey now, hey now. Yeah, I'm not a Broncos hater. I'm not a Broncos hater.
Go Chiefs. I am. Sorry. Love you,
Oof.
Scott. Thanks for tuning in, man.
All right. Go birds.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right.